Test 1, test 2. Test 1. Test 1.
Moment of silence to honor our veterans, members of the armed forces, and first responders.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, a little bit of housekeeping. If everybody could take a look at their cell phones and make sure they are on silent, vibrate, or turned off, please. And Mayor, we have some proclamations and awards.
Yes, we do. All right, I'm going to call Chief Downey up here. We have 2 awards of recognition for Captain Lance Blanchette and then also Sergeant Archery.
Thanks, Mayor, Chair, and members of the Commission. Good evening. So one of the greatest parts of any chief's job in any part of the country is to brag on his or her folks and the things that they do day in and day out. And we're blessed in Flagler Beach to have a wonderful staff. So tonight, I get the pleasure of rewarding 2 members of our team that have done outstanding work in the last couple of months. So we'll start with Captain Blanchette. Come on up. So for Captain Blanchette, he's got a formal commendation from the Chief of Police, and I'll read it to everyone. It's to Captain Lance Blanchette from myself, Chief Matt Downey, and the title is Commendation with today's date. It reads as follows. Prior to the onset of the global pandemic, the Flagler Beach Police Department requested permission from our City Commission to move forward with an investment in enhancing public safety, that being license plate readers. This request was made to assist with timely investigative information that can be utilized by our patrol officers, our detective, Flagler County investigators, as well as other law enforcement agencies outside of our county. The City Commission graciously approved the request, and as you were familiar with the LPR purchasing process from your time at the City of Daytona Beach, this project was assigned to you. During the last 2 years, we as a department have overcome many obstacles that were thrown our way, and you never wavered from completing this assignment. These obstacles included staffing shortages due to COVID, injuries to department members, as well as additional projects that were assigned to you, yet you persevered to get the LPR project completed. In spite of all the obstacles thrown your way, you managed not only to complete the project, but in the process, you also saved the city of Flagler Beach over $100,000. Thanks to your due diligence, this project came in well under budget, and we as a city were able to pay for the 5-year lease with monies from this year's budget. I'm anticipating many great success stories that will result from the installation of this new technology, and 100% of the credit for getting this project accomplished falls squarely on your shoulders. Your tenacity, outstanding work ethic, and ability to work effectively with others made this program a reality in Flagler Beach. I am therefore commending you for your exemplary performance, which reflected positively on yourself and the Flagler Beach Police Department. Congratulations, brother, on a job well done.
I've been wearing a gun belt for 31 years, and I'll be honest with you, I don't like this part of the job. While I'm very much appreciative, I look at things a little bit differently, because when I swore on with this agency, I took an oath to protect people. And this is one way that we can keep the visitors, the businesses, and the residents of Flagler Beach a little bit safer, and that's all the thanks I need. So thank you very much.
He wanted to know if I could mail it to him. I said, no, I don't give orders very often, but I'll see you at 5:30 at the commission meeting. And the second one is Sergeant David Archery. So Sergeant Archery has been with our agency for 16 years. He's done a great job every day. On January the 8th, Sergeant Archery responded to Leslie Street for a structure fire where an elderly gentleman was cooking on the stove and set his house on fire. A neighbor escorted the elderly gentleman out of his house, but disoriented, the resident went back into his house. Fires in kitchens are dangerous. There's lots of noxious gases that are created by the fire. Sergeant Archery, who's not a firefighter, went back into the house and escorted that resident back out of the house unharmed. So, Mayor, I know you have an little award you want to read to Sergeant Archery.
Here you are. Now, I heard that you're going to be doing a reenactment in slow motion.
So, if you want to read it, Mayor.
Oh, yes, absolutely. In recognition of his outstanding initiative in entering a burning building residence to escort the elderly resident out to safety and for his reoccurring actions benefiting the health and welfare of our community, we thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up, Captain.
Right here.
All right.
Doesn't it make an L like loser when you hold it up?
Thank you.
Just want to thank the commission for the time. This type of work goes on every day. And it's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it into a weekly report, a lot of stuff that doesn't make it to the newspapers. It's a lot of stuff that goes on unseen. But to work on that project for 2 years, or to go in a building when you're not a certified firefighter, when you raise your hand and say you will, they did. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Great job. We're going to be looking forward to that reenactment at the next meeting.
Wait.
All right, Mayor, that's everything for you?
Yes.
All right, we are moving on to deletions and changes to the agenda. Penny, City Manager, Commissioners, Mayor, any deletions, changes? Commissioner Bryan?
I don't have any deletions. I have an addition.
Okay, what you got?
I'd like to add the centennial for Flag the Beach to the agenda.
Okay, and are you looking to do that under comments or as an item, or?
It would actually be an item. I can make it a comments and then we can take action after that. How's that?
Yeah, well, I figure probably bringing it up under comments would be best, and
Okay.
we'll decide where to go from there.
I think that's what we've discussed when we were kind of laying out that format, that you would advise at this point if you had a potential action item that you were going to be bringing up in comments. So I think that's what Commissioner Bryan
Yeah,
just did.
and then if we need to get in deeper, we'll make it a item on next meeting or something.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to cover centennial under comments. Any other call-outs? That's it. All right, no deletions or anything like that, City Manager, we're good?
We're good, sir.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to public comments. This is all comments that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. If you could address myself, we ask the audience that there's no reactions, positive or negative, so everybody can speak freely. And so does any member of the public have a comment for items not on the agenda? If you could come on up and start with your name and address for the record. No public comments? It's cold. All right. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. And we'll move on to consent agenda. Under consent agenda, we have meeting minutes from January 13th, 22. Did everybody get a copy, and is there any call-outs?
Yes.
All right,
No.
Commissioner Belheimer, what you got?
No.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
we all read it, so I said yes.
All right, if that's the case, look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Yeah, we can do public comment on minutes. Any members of the public wish to speak on minutes? I'm just looking for participation at this point. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Next item, item 7 under general business. We have a request for a temporary waiver for a special event, which is Cheer at the Pier. Kathy,
Hi.
how are you doing? If you can, introduce yourself and what do you got?
Kathy Wilcox, Director of the Flagler Beach Historical Museum, and after 2 years of not having Cheer at the Pier, we are planning on having it this year in 2022 on April 9th, and I have submitted the paperwork for the permit to serve alcohol at the event, and that is why I'm here, hopefully for your approval. I do know that next year that we'll have an issue. There will be no Cheer on the pier, and maybe for a couple of years after that, but you know, we'll take it as it comes and we'll see what happens. But this is our major fundraiser, and like I said, we haven't had it since 2019, so we're really anxious to get the community and the restaurants back involved again.
And welcome back. Commissioners and Mayor, any questions or comments for Cheer at the Pier?
We'll just keep our fingers crossed that it works out.
Yes.
I'm going with the assumption that this is similar, if not exact, as it's been in the past.
The exact same program, yes.
Okay.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah.
It's always been a well-done and well-attended event.
It's one of my favorite city events.
Awesome.
So if we have good weather, it's not too blustery, we don't have tents flying everywhere. I know it's been a challenge. Any other comments or questions? And Kathy, any comments or questions for us about it?
No, not at this point.
All right. If that's the case, so we'll open this up public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak on Cheer at the Pier? The consideration for that. All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve special event Cheer at the Pier on April 9th.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. And Penny, if you could roll call.
I yield to Commissioner Mealy.
Whoever.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Bellhumor,
Yes.
Commissioner Mealy,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Chair Cooley.
Yes, the motion. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Welcome back.
Thank you.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that was tough.
All right.
Jane?
Second was Jane.
Commissioner Mealy.
All right, next we have a report from the Citizen Advisory Council representative, and that is Mr. Ed Penley. Long time no see, Ed. How are you?
Sure, I am good. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for having me. And I received a very kind admonition from the city manager that I'm going to be timed, so I want you to know I've got my timer out. So
Well,
I hope I don't get the hook.
we are flexible to appoint 4 presenters.
No, I'll try to be within a reasonable amount of time here to talk about this important stuff. So first of all, thank you. You have made street safety a priority, and there's a lot of folks who appreciate that. I think it's important. I was honored to have joined you for portions of your most recent strategic planning session, and thought it was awesome that among other priorities, street safety was up there. I also want to thank you for this appointment on the Citizen Advisory Committee to the Planning Organization, where hopefully I can bring a voice of us residents and also support Commissioner Bellhumor, who does a great job on the main TPO body. We do have opportunities on the TPO, through the TPO, and also through the Florida Department of Transportation, which is a key participant in the TPO process. But here's my take-home point. In my judgment, we need to get organized, okay? There are opportunities, but these tend to be taken advantage of by communities that have a vision, have goals, have a plan holistically, and have the community buy-in that empowers all of us to go out and try to implement. So that's my take-home point. So the TPO does have a renewed priority on street safety, as does FDOT. And I think this is really important for us, particularly because Flagler Beach has a competitive advantage. Okay, we were built for walking. We're compact. We have mixed use, meaning wherever you are in this awesome city, and especially on the island, you are close to businesses. You're close to an awesome beach. I mean, all these natural and built assets we have within a short distance. We have authenticity. People want to be here. This is an awesome, funky, traditional town. And again, getting around, walking or biking or using a golf cart or driving, you know, this place was built for that, to keep folks and activity and frankly economic gain right here in this little city. So that's an advantage as FDOT and the TPO says we want to enhance street safety, particularly for the folks who are most vulnerable on our streets. So also thanks to our neighbors, right? Because it's not easy to stand up in front of the commission for many people. Yet in recent times, you have heard from a number of people. I've heard, many of us have heard from so many residents to say, we want to see improvements, right? People have stood before you and said they want to see improvements so it's safer to walk across A1A if you're a family trying to go to the beach. We've heard people talk about Moody Boulevard, saying that should be a main street. It should bring people together. It is our main street, and yet it's more of a division right now. It's a tough boulevard to get across and along, and especially if you're walking, biking, or using a golf cart, and also if you're driving. We've heard our neighbors talk about Central and Flagler Avenue and Daytona Avenue, and these are particularly interesting, and our neighbors there have said they don't feel safe, even sometimes walking across the street to the mailbox, and they want traffic to go slower and more safely. Flagler, Daytona, and Central are a particular note because those are shared spaces outside of the central part of the town, meaning if you're walking a dog, if maybe you're not totally physically mobile, you are appropriately in that street space. And so the question of how fast traffic going is one of critical safety. So elements of street safety include preventing deaths and injuries. That's job number one. And regrettably, we have had fatalities within the city limits, multiple fatalities. More than one person has died while walking within the city. There's been additional deaths, and there's been additional deaths, people bicycling and driving just beyond the borders of the city. The other element of street safety is the perception, right? So keep in mind, it's a good thing for us to feel comfortable, to want to walk, to bicycle, to use a golf cart. That's a good thing. It's good for people's health. It's good for a community. If you're walking or bicycling or using a golf cart, you're much more likely to connect with other people, okay? It's good for businesses, because if you're walking, biking, or using a golf cart, almost by definition, some of us are hardier, but for the most part, you're gonna be local. And there is data showing that those people walking, bicycling, and using golf carts spend their money locally. And by the way, that's not just us who live here, that's people who come visit. So we would love our visitors to park once and kind of stay local. So it's all about speed. And this is something that the TPO and FDOT, and in particular, the district in which we are, District 5 for the Florida Department of Transportation, have made clear that they want to target speed, and to quote them, lower speeds save lives, okay? Lower speeds save lives. And it's worth reminding because speeds, which by the way, I also want to thank the city manager and the chief who are doing awesome work in promoting street safety. It's not on the chief to fix this, right? Enforcement is a part of this, but the engineering has to come first. Speeds are largely determined by the design and the engineering of a road. That includes A1A, it includes Moody, it includes Flagler, Daytona, and Central. So FDOT and the TPO have specifically said they want to see lower speeds to save people's lives. And just so you know, I'm not making this up, I do want to just highlight a couple things you have in your packet. Maybe some of you had a chance to look at it, a presentation that a senior official of District 5 of FDOT gave to the TPO Citizens Group, a meeting recently. And if you look at that, you'll see they have the data, the sad side of the number of people in this area who have died in crashes. But if I could just quote from a couple of those slides that you have in your packet there from this FDOT official, they have a goal of getting to 0 fatalities and serious injuries throughout their area of operation, okay? The so-called Vision Zero. They have a vision. And by the way, they invite localities to join them in sharing that vision, something you may want to consider. They talk about the fact that they want to look at all of the roads, not just state roads. So to quote them here, state or local road doesn't really matter. They see this holistically. And in my suggestion, we should as well. And then finally, that quote I just gave you a few minutes ago, target speed, lower speed, save lives, and doing it through the engineering and design, because if you get the engineering and design right, the chief's job doesn't go away, but it gets a lot easier, or at least less demanding, because streets are self-enforcing. People can get around, especially walking, biking, or using golf cart, the typical more vulnerable users. And we can move towards that vision of a place where people can get around and can do so safely. So to sum up, we have this emphasis. It's an opportunity, but I think we should get organized. If you continue to share in this goal of making our streets safer throughout the city, but I would invite you to consider the specifics of that and thinking about potentially a process to develop vision and goals. You don't have to reinvent everything. Other places have done this. And then a plan drawn up that's informed by that vision and goals and with input from residents and businesses to get good ideas, but also to get buy-in. So that's what I would think about. And again, thinking about how to lower speeds, traffic keeps flowing, but don't flow at 50 miles an hour through our little city, please. You can flow at 20, 25, maybe stop, have something to eat, enjoy the beach. So thank you, and I stand ready to continue to help you and appreciate any advice or direction that you have.
Commissioners, questions or comments?
I have a question.
Commissioner Bryan.
When you say get organized, specifically, what would you suggest? Because, I mean, we hear organizing and get together and this kind of thing here. I'd like to see more specific direction as to where we should be going in that respect.
Awesome. Well, that's a great question. And in fact, I know the city manager already has thoughts in this regard, and it's something that, suggestions are out there and there's models out there. But I would say we would be in the good hands of the manager. But if with your agreement, the manager and you, I think a process would go in the way I just, had suggested. You have a vision. And by the way, I just read one that FDOT has. You could choose some variation of that. You could establish goals at the commission level. Do you want to support small businesses through our streets? Do you want people to be able to walk and bike and take a golf cart around? I mean, I said it. I saw you nodding, but you could say that. That's a goal. Do you want to lower speeds throughout the city in places where people don't feel safe? That's the sort of thing that you could establish as a goal. You don't have to do all the heavy lifting. You provide the direction. But that direction can be very powerful, having that vision and goals, informed by the manager's input and the chief's input and residents' input. And then, if you have a vision and goals, in my judgment and experience, the plan becomes a lot easier. Because then you can say to the experts, okay, we want people to feel safe. We want families to be able to cross A1A. We want people to be able to walk, bike, or use a golf cart and not fear. We want that to be their choice. That's the easiest option. So if you say that, then the experts can say, oh, that's what you want. Okay, here's the type of plan throughout the city that might accommodate it. So I hope I'm answering your question.
You have, definitely. Okay. I mean, because, these things get thrown out there, and I hate for things to just go out there and then they just like, boom, and that's it. You hear no more about it. So when I hear we need a plan, I like more specific direction as to where our city manager and the board is going in regard to this plan and how we're going to implement these kinds of values and goals. Are we going to develop a strategic plan based on these particular goals and values and this kind of thing here? So that's all I'm asking, is so that we have more specific direction, and it kind of helps us to have an idea of direction when we're talking to the city manager and also with you in order to help us to achieve these particular objectives.
Yeah, I mean, just to highlight, in your packet in that FDOT presentation, there is an acronym that they use, Local Road Safety Plan, and it's got capital letters, so it's a term of art. So that's the type of thing, if you choose, if you have that vision and goals, you could direct your staff. We could certainly help, we advocates, and potentially develop, with FDOT's advice and hopefully help in the TPO, that local road safety plan.
Okay,
and use
it's been very helpful. I mean, because we do hear people coming to us. We hear it all the time. People speeding this way, that way. Because we're afraid to go out on the street. So this is great help to me. I mean,
and that way you kind of move away from the instant measure, right? So you shouldn't be on the hook, nor should the chief, nor should the manager, to say there's one place and we're going to try to address that one place. If you have that vision, goal, and plan, just you look at it and you say, okay, we've heard from people saying that's a problem. How does that, fit with the whole plan? How does it fit with the corridor? And what are the approved FDOT measures that we might want to use?
Okay, thank you very much.
I was going to bring up something very similar on that local road safety plans page that you had in the packet. It says, the second bullet says to prioritize roadway safety improvements on local roads, and then some other priorities. And then several pages after that, encourage safety enhancements and developments and permits. So I was wondering, are there specific recommendations? I think you kind of answered that when you answered Ken's question, so I appreciate that. So if we go out and look online, we will find other more specifics than this?
Yeah, so if I hear you right, Commissioner Mill, you're talking about the measures, the actual actions you would take once so let's say you have a vision, you have goals, and then you say you want to develop a plan. Yes, a plan could and should include either specific measures, or a lot of times a plan would include a menu of measures, because not any particular measure would be appropriate for any particular spot. So a lot of times I've seen plans where you say, okay, there's the goal. In general, we want to bring speeds down. We want people to be able to cross the street. Here's 4 things that have been shown to keep the traffic flowing, but bring those speeds down. And then it's a consultation with an expert at FDOT or elsewhere to say, what do you recommend? And then when you're talking with the community members, you're talking with us, you're not making something up. You're saying, we agreed to this, here's 4 things, and maybe you're choosing among those 4 things to say, okay, maybe we try this particular measure. But yes, there are links to both the Federal Highway Administration and also FDOT websites that specify those types of measures. And that's down the road, right? I would advise us not to start off with the measures, right? Because the fastest way to split an advocate coalition is to recommend a measure, because I guarantee it, some people are going to think that's the best one. Some people might not like it. And that's where you get back to that goal. But yes, there are approved, vetted measures. We have some locally. Beverly Beach, in fact, will be getting some, right? So Beverly Beach did get organized, did have a vision for slowing down the traffic and making it safer to get around. And they do have money coming their way. They have an approved design. As I understand it, it's supposed to be under construction this year. So that is where the plan turned in to a measure. There's a design, and our neighbors to the north will be they will see that particular application soon.
Yeah, yesterday I attended a Flagler Tiger Bay Club meeting, and there was a speaker from a guy who works for FDOT. He used to sit on the House Committee, staff on a Federal House Committee about transportation. And so when his speech was over, I went up to him and said, how do we get the speed limit lowered on A1A? And he promised to have it fixed by today, but I don't think he did.
Yeah, and remember that the speed limit is part of it.
Yes.
But if you get the engineering right, again, you're telling drivers to go a certain speed. If you get the engineering wrong, you can't have enough signs. You can put all the signs you want. You can even put enough, as many officers as you want. But if the road design says go fast, drivers are going to go fast. By the way, if I could just give a shout out, you do have an advocacy group in Flagler Beach, and I'm happy to be a member of it. But I also want to give a shout out to Mike McNally, who is one of the volunteers with Flagler Beach Safe Streets, and Mike and others are advocates for safety, and we want to serve the manager, we want to serve the chief and support good ideas, and again, hopefully expand the efforts to become holistic.
Commissioner Phillips, you had some.
Thank you, Ed.
Just really briefly, Ed. So you just mentioned Flagler Beach Safe Streets. I was just going to ask, are you open, or does it make sense to have a committee with residents as well? Something similar to what we did with the 4th of July?
I'm certainly open to that. I don't know the answer. I mean, I guess the question would be would it be helpful, and would there be volunteers interested in doing that?
So do you think it would be helpful for your mission and your vision and your goals? Okay.
Yeah, I think it would certainly be helpful to have some sort of a consultative group. If you, again, you need people to show up and be interested, but if we have people who
I think we would
want to do it, then I think that'd be great. And again, that's exactly the sort of thing, if you establish the vision and the goals, consulting with the group would be, I think, a way to promote good ideas, maybe vet some not so good ones, but also get buy-in, right? Because it's education too. Once you get the goals right, we want to educate people. We want to talk about this. So I think that'd be wonderful. And like I said, I'm not in a position to put anybody on the hook to do it, but I think it'd be a great mechanism. And again, the manager would perhaps be in a position to say, hopefully that would be helpful, and how do you stand it up, and hopefully you get more out of it.
Right.
I think that would be a good idea. I get a little upset when I see comments on Facebook about why is the speed limit so low on the southern part of A1A.
Yeah.
And I know anytime I drive on A1A and I have somebody this close to me in the back.
Yeah.
So maybe it's always education and communication.
That's right.
I had that discussion with somebody else today.
Yeah, I'm
different topic, and I think that might alleviate some of that.
Absolutely. Education is a key part. By the way, my family lives right near that reconstructed part between 9th and 22nd, where safety is a priority. We can walk across that road. I go to the beach every day. We can do it. And I'm not saying it's perfect.
And you're here to tell a story.
Those vehicles go slower than they do on North A1A. I can tell you that. We can easily cross. A kid can cross that road. Okay? So there is this universal phenomenon among drivers. Many drivers think that speed limits should be higher on the streets where they don't live. And typically they should be lower on where they live. But that's the point of a holistic approach, is every block, every street, somebody lives there, somebody works there, somebody enjoys that place. Everywhere somebody is in our tiny little town. And so the notion that, speeds should be really fast over there, but not on my street, a holistic approach can help remove that and say, look, we're all in this. There's people walking, biking, and using golf carts all around this town. There's great things all around this town. Let's make everybody's place safe, and not say the outlier is the problem where the drivers are going slow. How about we get the drivers to go slow in other places?
Commissioner Belhumeur.
Ed, first I want to commend you on your enthusiasm, and been pretty persistent in what your goals were before you started, and really got up to speed quickly. And going to those meetings once a month, it's really not that easy to understand all the different, different ways things are done. We are, city manager has been working directly with District 5 on a couple of things. And hopefully we can get these crosswalks a lot safer than they are. Looking to change colors of signs, add some flashing lights, maybe even airport style lights in the asphalt. He sent a letter out to FDOT asking to lower the speed limit on the north side up to 10th Street, which gives a little bit more. So it got some things in place, but to answer what you're really asking is, I don't know whether this is something. How big is your group that you're talking about?
We are mighty. We have said that one person is a crank, two people, but once you hit three, that's an army. So I'm going to say we are at least that many.
Okay.
But we would welcome others to join us, and anybody who's interested.
Yeah, I don't know what the best venue would be, but we will be having our strategic planning coming up in the not too distant future. So I'll keep it on my list for that, unless city manager has some different ideas. But I don't know, to turn this into a holistic plan, that's really not something we have time to do during that session. So that's why I was asking how big your group was, and whatever suggestions you can bring. Recently I was up north and going through some, rural areas that they use as speed humps. They can go 25 mile an hour over them, but they can't go 35. So I don't know, there's so many different ways of doing it, but it'd be great to have the feedback from the residents before
and we would love to
we
do it.
Strategize on it.
And I know, Mr. McNally, we've talked about this, and we would love that. And if it's the pleasure of the commission and the manager, we would love to help out, because again, you only have so much time, and you're not the ones who should be doing the fine-grained details, but we would be happy to offer suggestions on what you might consider, what the manager might consider, what other places are doing, what FDOT might like. So we would be very happy to contribute to that. So thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
So my comments, city manager, we have a group that is talented. We have a group that is motivated on a subject that, as long as I have lived here, has not gone anywhere. And River to Sea TPO, our participation has been low to zero most of the time. And what is your recommendation? We have all these ideas, we have all this talent, and we have the ability to do it. So what is your recommendation on getting this, down on the street, no pun intended?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of thoughts. First of all, I think Ed's right. It starts with a vision. And so I've extended an invitation to him and his group to attend the strategic planning. We haven't set the date yet, but it's going to be in April. Put out the guidance memo, and we know it's going to be in April. So we're working on that. Second of all, I really would appreciate it if they formed their group. Let them do their thing and work with me. The minute you make them a formal committee, all the sunshine laws come with it, and then we begin to bog down. I like the idea of them being self-initiated and working directly with me, and then I can coordinate with the chief and FDOT. And I have every intention of making sure FDOT knows all about this initiative. And I actually would like to propose that we put together enough information to maybe make a pitch for some funding for multimodal solutions for our community, and a comprehensive plan that could be kind of a model approach for others to use in the state. So I could see them maybe making us a pilot program and maybe putting some money behind it. So that was my thoughts on it. And if you're so agreeable, I'd like to approach it that way instead of, setting up another committee that the staff has to staff and we have to take minutes and we have to, do all this stuff with. And I just think it'd be far more productive if we proceeded that way.
And just to piggyback on that, what about Ed, his group, and the Flagler Beach Safe Streets group bring you recommendations that you can vet, you can look at the practicality, and then push them to us for approval, because we can do all that pretty quick, right?
Yes, and what it really is after you set the vision, then it becomes a matter of connecting the dots in the system. To make any meaningful changes, it has to be on a project level basis. And as things come along, as things are put on our project planning process, as the 5-year capital plan comes up, I mean, it's as simple or as complex as even we have a right-of-way ordinance that's in the works right now. And even though the focus of that right-of-way ordinance is, cleaning up the right-of-ways and making sure that, we don't have obstructions for drainage, there are other objectives that could be accomplished in terms of street safety. So it's turning these kinds of situations into opportunity for funding, opportunities for broadening their purpose, and connecting the dots in the system. And that's something that, as your manager, I'm in a position to do, working with the chief and all the resources that are available through the state. And I'd be glad to work with this group to do that.
Commissioner Mealy.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about it not being a committee because of all the rules. Could we provide a means for Ed and his group of 3 people?
At least 3,
At
Madam.
least 3. 3.5 people. Could we provide some resource for him to put it out to the community that this group exists, and if you have any interest?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's the kind of thing, if you so desire for me to work with this Safe Streets Committee, that's easy. I can make that happen.
And Commissioners and Mayor, City Manager is looking for our blessing on a lot of those tactics. How do we feel on that? Are we willing to do blessing? Any questions about it?
Proceed.
Everyone's okay with it? Okay, you have blessing. I'm moving forward with
He's the
that.
man with the plan.
Is it? Ed, do you have any questions for us before we wrap up?
No, sir, this has been wonderful. You've been very generous with your time and focus, and we greatly appreciate it. And in my capacity as your rep on the CAC, I'm certainly grateful. So nothing more from me, just a big thanks.
We're thankful for you. It's nice to have somebody that is knowledgeable and motivated and talented on this and can really move the needle on some stuff.
Well, I show up and won't shut up, if that's a nice way of saying that.
So you're the crank then?
It. Yeah, well, no, now I'm part of a small army.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you for all your work, and
Thank you, Ed.
and you'll be working with the city manager and then the Safe Streets group as well. Y'all can coordinate and let's get some ideas, turning and burning.
We look forward to it. Thank you.
Great job, Ed.
Thank you. All right. No action on that. We'll move right to public hearings. Item 9, Ordinance 2022-03. Drew.
Ordinance 2022-03, an ordinance by the City Commission of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, amending Appendix A, Land Development Regulations, Article 2, Zoning, amending Section 2.02.00, Definitions, amending Section 2.06.06, Multifamily and Motel Structures, amending and establishing distinctive architectural and site design standards and principles, providing for inclusion in the Code of Ordinances, providing for conflict, providing an effective date hereof. And just as a relatively simple introduction, two things really going on here, and timing. Some of this would have been accomplished, most of this probably would have been accomplished in your land development code rewrites, but again, as that has drug out, other pending issues have moved things forward. The hotel project had brought to everybody's attention that your current code blends the definition of hotel and motel, and as you all understand and recognize, hotels and motels are 2 very distinctive things. And so as we've been looking at that, Mr. Torino and I discussed going ahead and breaking those definitions out so it didn't cause any problems for the potential developer there, to make them a little bit more consistent with the actual distinction between hotels and motels. So that's the first part. And then while we were messing with those parts, Larry wanted to go ahead and add the architectural elements, which really make up the bulk of this ordinance and why he's here tonight.
All right, thank you, Drew. Larry, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good to see you again.
Good to be here.
All right, what you got for us?
Well, just here to answer any questions. Basically, what I did was, having gone through the meetings with the planning board, the joint workshops, going through the documents, going back through and addressing the comments that have been made, actually initiated some further thoughts about omissions or commissions or getting more detailed in certain aspects, and the realization finally hit myself, and I mentioned it to Brian, that, you know, we have architectural guidelines for the downtown mixed-use district, but we don't have architectural guidelines per se for multifamily and non-residential buildings in the balance of the city. And I think to get a better grasp of that, we both felt that it would be prudent to introduce architectural guidelines, site design principles that are similar in nature to what we find in the mixed-use district, and basically they emulate what is in the charrette. So this would carry over not only to the Barrier Island, but also to the mainland. And essentially that's the crux of what this effort has been about, besides the technical part that Drew has mentioned. I did have a conversation with Commissioner Mealy, and she was gracious enough to point out all the errors that I made, both grammatically and which were very well taken, and I appreciate those other set of eyes, but I'm happy to answer any questions that are related to the technical aspects of the standards and the designs.
All right, thank you, Larry. Questions, comments? And Commissioner Mealy, it sounds like you already got a hold of them.
I got all 9 answers. They weren't all just errors. There was some questions I had besides. And Larry was very helpful with that.
Commissioner Mealy is going to also grade these too.
I asked her to use a bell curve.
Yeah. No questions?
Could be picked on, but I'm not sure. No?
Yes.
Just a couple comments for Larry.
Right, Commissioner Bellinger.
So it looks like you started from scratch and wrote this whole thing. So I know you got a lot of time invested in it, and you've been getting feedback for a number of years to know what's best. And I read every bit of it and didn't see anything I didn't like. So I wasn't scrutinizing the spelling of every word, but
I appreciate that.
I thought it was very nicely done and very thorough. So I like what I read, so that's what I wanted to share.
Okay, any other comments, questions? All right, we'll open this up to the public. Public comment for item 9, ordinance 2022-03. Quiet crowd tonight. All right, we'll close public comment. See none. And
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2022-03.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Penny, if you could roll call.
Commissioner Belhumer?
Yes.
Commissioner Mealy?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan?
Yes.
Chair Cooley?
Yes, the motion. Motion passes unanimous.
And this was just first reading. Its next stop will be Par Board in February, correct, Larry?
Correct.
So this is going to Par Board in February, and you will see it in like a second meeting of February, right? Is what you're advertising for, Penny?
I have time. I could get it on February 10th. If you have changes, I could just, carry the public hearing forward if it wasn't ready. But it depends on how quick you want it to.
Would you prefer it on the 10th, Larry?
Okay.
All right, we are good. And Mr. Trino, thank you once again.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
All right, move on to staff reports. Drew, you are first.
Couple, the substantive one, the city manager has asked me to report on or give an update on our work over with the golf course and getting a financial audit performed. Back in June, the city made a request to perform an audit. While they were relatively prompt in responding back and inviting us out to do an audit, the records are an issue, became an issue and remain an issue, which is the bulk of what the city manager wanted me to report tonight. As you know, in correspondence, probably 2019, that we were advised to contact the LLC through the attorney, and very cordial communications with the attorney during this time. But it's been a trickle at best of information, I think, since June when the first request was made. After the request was made, after the request to schedule by them was made, we contacted the auditing firm that the city has slated to perform the audit. They gave us a list of financial documents that they would need to perform the audit. That was passed along to the LLC, and that's when the trickle of information started. We have received bank statements for the period requested by the auditor, and we received the state income tax, or excuse me, the state sales tax reports, which frankly we should have been receiving monthly anyway, but we did eventually receive those. That information was passed by your finance director to the auditor, just with the question of, is this enough to even start an audit? And the answer was no. And so here we are now in January for an audit request that we made in June, and still do not have enough information that we've received to perform an audit. And the answers we've gotten back seem to indicate that really the records certainly are not easier for them to provide. You know, there's clearly not books, and they would say, sure, come and see our books. And I won't hypothesize as to what's going on, but it does not look like books are being very thoroughly kept over there. And so I think that certainly is a concern for the city manager, and I'm sure a concern for all of you, and looking to move this forward, to move us off of center. And there are some other concerns, as there always are. You hear complaints from the public occasionally about conditions out there. It seems to ebb and flow. But my thought, and in talking with the city manager about this update tonight on how to move us off of center and maybe get some traction to move forward, is to address the financial concern issues. And we've given default and cure letters in the past over those accounting and how they're keeping books. But to authorize your city manager to maybe do a little bit more legwork to see those items that he believes are not being done out there, whether financial or operational, that don't meet the letter of the lease agreement that you have, and then to get with me, and I can help him draft a letter communicating those defaults that he sees to the tenant, and potentially identifying some that never were cured the first time you asked them to be cured, but then inviting the tenant here sometime 30 days after that letter is. I can't give you a firm date of when that hearing would be or when we'd offer it. We'd probably give a little bit of flexibility so they could schedule. We want to be cordial still, I think. But to have them come here and basically present to you those things that the city manager has identified that are defaults of the lease, what they've done to cure, as is their obligation under the lease, those things that maybe they should have been cured a long time ago and never were, or should never have been allowed to recur, and have that conversation of, are you going to stay there? Are you going to do what the lease says? And have you cured the things that we've said you have not been doing right? But at some point we have to push, it seems, because it just being nice, you know,
Isn't working.
And I understand there's been some change in who's managing and who's and who's in charge, but at the same time the city has to protect its financial interest. And since, again, as you all remember, part of this lease is rent plus. It is based somewhat on what's coming into that, and our ability to conduct an audit to make sure we're getting paid what we're supposed to be getting paid is key.
Yeah, and I'll just add, thank you, Drew. I'll just add that I am desperately trying to not prejudge, but what I'm hearing and seeing so far makes me concerned for the public fiscal responsibility that we have to manage that asset correctly. And maybe others, kick that can down the road, but I'm not going to do that.
So, Drew, you're looking for a blessing for us to give city manager to move forward to next steps of research?
Direct the city manager to identify those issues that he believes are a default of the lease agreement, notify the tenant of those issues with a default and cure letter that I will work with them to draft, and then invite them here for a proper hearing about those issues somewhere after the cure period that the lease provides to come and discuss and tell us what they've done to fix the issues, if they were fixable at all, and if what they've done to fix and how they're going to keep them fixed.
Okay, so we have that question on the table. Commissioner Bryan?
No, I think it's way past time that we did something on this. When I became a commissioner a year and 5 months ago, whatever it was, I read the lease several times. And after that, I spent many times going down there just trying to find out what was happening. And it was pretty clear that, breach of contract had been violated numerous times. And I think we've just given them so many opportunities to cure the issues that, as elected officials and representatives of the community, we have a fiduciary responsibility to move on this sooner than later. So that's where I am.
Okay,
Agreed. Agreed.
Any other comments? And do we have a consensus for Drew and the city manager?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a consensus to move forward with that direction. The only other feedback I have is, and this is concerning Drew, so we'll talk about the books and the accounting. They have not been meeting standard as far as accounting since I've been a citizen, and I'm now in my second term of being a commissioner. And so when we ask this question, are you going to cure these issues? Those questions I remember being asked.
And that's why you heard me alluding to that, if they're curable or if they should have been cured a long time ago.
Okay.
And that's an issue that when they're invited here and we have that hearing, I think should be part of your conversation of why was it not fixed years ago?
Right. Because
but I would say let's put a pin in that conversation until they're here and able to respond.
Okay. I'll tuck my pitchfork back in. All right. Okay, so we have direction on that. Do you need any other direction as far as that topic?
Not on that item.
Okay, what else you got?
And the only other, did have code enforcement yesterday, and I had communicated to the magistrate that you were receptive to the idea of kind of a deferment, an alternative penalties program for parking violations. We did have one that was upheld yesterday, and the magistrate allowed him to participate. He was down from Jacksonville, but he has friends here, so he was actually enthusiastic about the opportunity. But in lieu of paying the fine to participate, and it was a fine for parking on the dune, that he was ordered to, in lieu of paying the fine, he could participate in a beach cleanup within a 6-month period, since we weren't sure what the schedule was during the winter months, but so we wanted to give him plenty of time. But the magistrate felt that was very much related to, so he could come out and learn. And there is still a lot of education going on out there, and we heard probably what some of you may have expected us to hear when he had two tires on the sand. People from Jacksonville don't recognize that all the sand east of A1A is part of the dune system here, because they think of dunes, they think of the big piles of blowing sand. And so we got to have that education, and I think that also helped the magistrate in feeling that was a good opportunity to come to the city of Flagler Beach and understand that this beach isn't the same as Jacksonville Beach. So we have done that. I am working on the ordinance. I thought you'd be interested to learn that there actually is whether they get on the ballot or not, we will see, but there is a group that is pushing hard in the state to do a constitutional amendment that would provide for exactly this type of program for all parking citations across the state, that there would be a community service in lieu of payment for parking citations. So as I told, I think, Mr. Whitson in chief, once again, the city of Flagler Beach is on the cutting edges. So that's my report.
Is that a Morgan and Morgan effort, or?
I don't think that's the Morgan and Morgan one. I think that one looks like purely a citizen driven, at least from the information on the internet I found. It seemed like it was really just citizens.
That's wonderful.
It is a good thing, because there are places that it is abused, and it's been well documented in the past that folks do that for the financial gain, which is not what it's supposed to be for.
Well, and one of the things we talked about actually as we were discussing this in the hearing yesterday is, the magistrate was wanting to since we don't have an ordinance yet, didn't want to make sure he didn't do something that you would have been offended by. And I explained that, no, the reason why we even addressed the parking citation ordinance was we wanted to get people's attention. We wanted this opportunity to educate. And if we look at it in that perspective, coming out and doing a beach cleanup, spending time at that beach, being connected to the community, actually is a whole lot more educational than writing a check.
Just being part of that group that does the work, I think, would teach people something.
All right. Thank you, Drew. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few items. We'll be traveling to Tallahassee the 7th through the 9th of February, along with Commissioner Bellhumer, to educate our friends in Tallahassee and connect with some of the agencies up there and raise some of our issues and concerns with them, and maybe hold my hand out for any kind of grant fundings that may be available. So we'll be doing that. Also wanted to let you know that this afternoon I had an interview with Channel 13 News about the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers beach management project and where we are with that. And I believe I sent you an email to that effect. But if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read for the public's information the email from Al Hadid from the county to us about where they are with this beach management program.
By all means.
The reports that we've received. So, and I, again, focused on this issue in my interview. I hope that part didn't hit the cutting room floor, but anyway, I did what I could. Mr. Whitson, we are proceeding to file the eminent domain suits against the two owners who have not voluntarily agreed to have their dune remnants repaired. The Army Corps of Engineers is presently checking data to finalize our ability to proceed with the court cases. To this point, we have extended every chance to the two owners to come to the table to discuss their concerns and issues. We will remain open to any further discussion the owners may wish to have, but regardless, we must proceed in order to avoid loss of the federal funding and the state funding. And of course, I replied, right on, we need to proceed. So that is happening. And if it's your pleasure, I'll be glad to further discuss with Al his coming to the next commission meeting and kind of letting you know where he is in the situation. I think there's a report that's due to the Army Corps of Engineers from the county on February 11. So he might be able to update you at our next meeting on February 10, where he is in that process and what the status of the lawsuit is.
Great.
Next item is that I've made an offer of employment and they have accepted. We'll have a new CRA director on February 14. Her name is familiar, Karen Miller. Karen was here before, and she's going to do us an outstanding job. And I've already got a list that long of things I want her to do. So we're going to make...
She can just pick up where she left off 11 years ago.
She probably has a list for me too. So, and then I've also gone through the interview process. It was extremely difficult. We had really well qualified candidates, but I've made a decision on the new assistant to the city manager. Her name is Katie Dockhorn. And Katie is a graduate of Cornell University, and she works for the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And in that role, she's been managing millions of dollars in federal funds, and her writing sample was off the chart. And so I can't wait for her to get here. She'll start on March 1st. So we'll be easing her into that role. So be gentle.
Tell her she doesn't need to bring a snow shovel with her.
All right. Her parents live in Ormond Beach, so she was happy to do that. Also wanted to let you know that we have already purchased the aeroclave equipment that we had money scheduled under the American Rescue Act plan, and we've already done this meeting room, and tomorrow after we leave we'll do it again, so that as people come in, it'll be done before you have meetings and then after. So that'll help, sanitize the room and keep everybody safer under the COVID circumstances. And we hope we don't have to continue to do that, but we have no control over that. So just wanted to let you know that we're doing that, and it's going well. The new meters for water will be in probably mid to late March, and we will start installations with crews on that. So that effort, thank you, is making progress. Also want to thank and do a shout out to our friends in the IT department at the county. They have installed a new camera out at the end of the pier.
For the video today.
And if you've seen the video, it's kind of cool. And as long as the batteries work and the wind doesn't blow it off, we'll be good. So we'll keep that link out there. And one of Katie's new responsibilities will be to make sure that the public is aware of that link and that it stays active and we show off our pier and our beach to.
It's going to be tasked with cleaning the lens every once in a while.
Buzz. So we've got that going, and then finally, I've reached out through the chief to FDOT, the DeLand, District 5, and we're looking at scheduling an update as you requested in March of 2022, and I thought I would mention that because it's germane to the discussion we had earlier with the safety committee. And so I have many more things going on. You should see my project board if you want to come visit my office. But we're moving forward with a lot of things.
All right, Commissioners, Mayor, any questions for City Manager or Drew?
Question for the city manager.
Commissioner Phillips?
Can you give us an update on where we are with the landscape crew? Have we hired?
Yes, ma'am. Great question. It's been difficult to hire people in this environment, but we have hired 3, and we have a couple more positions to fill, but we're making steady progress there, and we're hoping to have the crew up and moving forward. I'd say, based on the letters that I've signed, in February.
Did I not see at least 2 of them working today?
Yeah, there's some on board, but I got another one coming, and then we have other interviews next week. So we're beginning to, make headway on that, and that's why I'm optimistic that February will be staffed up.
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
That they take a look at all of our stop signs and make sure that they're all visible. A lot of them are covered with brush hanging over.
That's on the list. There's a lot of, I'll just say I walk around for lunch, for example. When I walk around for lunch and I see the branches hanging over everywhere, obstructing the sidewalks and other kinds of things like that. And also going to be engaging Karen Miller, the new CRA director, in this discussion as well, especially around the CRA, and getting the trash picked up and the sand out of the street, and in a lot of details that need to be done. So yes, ma'am.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions for Drew or City Manager? Okay.
Thank you for both of you for taking on all the issues. It's easy for us to say, we want to do this, but for you to move them forward, it's great.
Chief, any staff reports?
Just a couple educational things. At the last meeting, the ordinance with regards to balloons. So we started our social media campaign to educate folks that balloons do kill marine life. So we put 2 posts out in the last week. And at last meeting, a citizen had brought up about the right whales and parking on the dunes. So that program, right whale, wrong parking, post comes out Saturday. So we'll continue to educate, and when education doesn't work, unfortunately, enforcement is the next level. And we don't want to write them parking tickets, but we understand that, getting a chance to see a right whale is exciting, but it does not give you carte blanche to park on the dunes, walk on the dunes, and trample the dunes. Continue to do that, the dunes will collapse, your roadway will collapse, and you'll want to fall in the ocean. So we'll be very aggressive when it comes to that. And then the last one is, today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, to celebrate the liberation of Auschwitz and Birkenau. So for the 6 million Jewish victims and the other millions that fell victim to the Nazis, the best way to combat that is never forget. So we support remembrance of that day. So thanks.
Thank you for
Chief,
that.
I wanted to tell everybody that you've had your guys and gals out on the streets. We were talking about speed up and down Flagler Central and Daytona, and they're out there. They're out there keeping an eye out, and I travel these streets a lot, as you well know, and I've seen them much more often in the last month than I have any time prior to that.
And a lot of that's got to do with a lot of feedback
that.
From the commission and from the citizens. Some of it on social media. Hey, can you watch the stop sign at South 17th and South Daytona, or can you address parking up in the 17 or 1800 block of North Central? Being responsive is part of our responsibility. So I appreciate the acknowledgement. We're a little short-staffed. COVID has hit, and we've overcome those, and everybody's got to put their boots on and go out and work. So we're out there 24/7, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
To add on to that, I can't say the word enjoy is the right word, but I appreciate what I read in your reports. The use of the LPR, the license plate readers, has been terrific.
It's almost a daily occurrence with the LPRs.
The reports that we did, I forget the language you use, but where you have people watching certain streets for speeding or parking issues.
Right, and there's a myriad of different things that, the citizens are concerned about, whether it's stop signs or speed or speeds on A1A. And, as the manager said, we're working really, really close with DOT, whether it comes to speed limits or, changing the footprint of what A1A is going to look like with the repave and all the upgrades that we have. So I did contact the engineer today. I left him a voicemail, and hopefully we can get a nice presentation here on the 24th of March.
Very nice. Very nice. Look forward to that.
Mr. Chairman, while the chief's here, one quick comment.
Yes, sir.
We had a ceremony to commend some of his staff earlier today, but I can't just let this go. This guy, he's had this officer, that officer go down with COVID, whatever. I called him the other morning. We have some tasks to follow up on that's been assigned by the mayor and the commission. He's out on the road himself. Not one task I gave him was dropped. He was covering for everybody else. He got everything done. So kudos, Chief, for not only, showing the leadership that you do, but getting the work done too. So thank you.
Thanks, Ross. I appreciate it. There's a difference between being committed and being involved. And I'm not involved, I'm committed.
That's different seeing you in long pants, I suppose.
But when I was on the road, I was rocking them shorts.
All right, Penny, staff comments.
Just that you have the 21st qualifying ended, and you do have 3 candidates for 2 seats for our election coming up on March 8th. And those candidates are Jane Mealy, Rick Bellhumer, and James Sherman, who's in the audience.
That's it?
All voting will be here in City Hall. The only other option is to absentee ballot vote, and I'm sorry I don't have that deadline off the top of my head, but you can look at the Flagler County Supervisor of Elections website to obtain that.
All right, thank you. All right, on to,
Oh, I do have one more.
what you got?
Sorry. The Flagler, I've been getting calls lately asking if I have any information about the candidates, and I provide them what I have. And the Flagler Beach Women's Club on the 15th will hold a candidate night, and all 3 candidates will be there to speak about their platform.
At 7 o'clock.
7 p.m. at the Women's Club on South Central Avenue.
What's the date again?
15th.
February 15th.
15th.
Do you have to RSVP like you did last year, Jane?
The woman who usually runs it is ill and so can't do it. And yeah, Margaret, yeah. I don't know what's wrong with her, but She said she's getting better, but she can't make the commitment. So I've asked somebody else to do it who said yes. Then I got back to Margaret. Well, I reached out to Margaret to get in touch with this woman to pass on all the paperwork, but, you know, all the speeches she makes and how she runs it. And we're having a communication problem. So I'm going to have to keep calling and hoping Margaret picks up.
Okay.
To be determined.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to commission comments. Mayor.
I did not have anything today, but I just wanted to let Drew know that the beach cleanups, they're every first Saturday and they are every month.
That's it?
That's it. I mean, we are out there unless it's pouring down rain. 9 a.m., meet at the A-frame.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Bryan, if you can start with your one item that you had that could be potential action.
Okay, I will, and please bear with me. I do have a head cold, and trust me, it's not COVID. I had a test just before I walked in here, and it's negative. So I'm serious. I just want to let everyone know that I was very serious about that, so I made sure that, you know, everyone was protected. What I have that I wanted to bring up was the Centennial for Flagler Beach. It's going to be coming up in a couple of years, and I think all of us are kind of individuals that we don't like to wait until the last minute. So I thought it was probably a good idea that we start at least entertain a discussion about how we're going to do it, what type of a group, committee, or whatever we want to call it.
A non-committee.
Yeah, with a council would be involved with doing this, because I think that we probably should have started on this maybe 6 months ago. To have an event like we probably would like to have, a nice big event celebrating 100 years of Flagler Beach, is huge. I kind of reached out to Kathy, who heads up our historic museum. I also talked to Scott Spradley this morning. And those individuals are just two that I talked to, as well as Amy with the Tourist Development Council. So I think this could be a grand event. I could think it could be a very good event that we'd all be proud of. Reaching out and looking for corporate sponsorship would be possibly some ideas that we could look at. Getting individuals from the county to get involved, because this is something that we should all celebrate. There's sort of a template, if you will, that the county used already, that we don't really have to reinvent the wheel. Not to say we're going to duplicate what they're doing, but it gives us something to work on. So I just wanted to bring it up and maybe get some support from the group here to give the city manager some direction as to how we would proceed with this, and then start moving in that direction. I think there should be a line item or a pot of somewhere in our budget where we actually start accumulating some type of funds for this, because if we wait until the last minute, it's not going to happen. I mean, it just say we're going to have a birthday cake and have a parade and call it a day. I mean, that might be okay too, but I think it should be grander than that. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, for just at least.
Okay, commissioners, thoughts on that?
There are all kinds of resource people available in town, people whose families, excuse me, have been here since the town was formed. You see historical things listed on Facebook all the time. There's stories that people tell. So we can get in contact with some of those people and see if they have any ideas as to what to do. And I can think of several names without even working on it. The museum was, when was the last week? Was it? It couldn't have been 75 years, because that would have been 25 years ago. But maybe it was the 80th? 90th? Was it 10 years? Okay, it seems longer ago than that, but whatever. The museum was involved in that, and so maybe we can look back and see what the museum did at that time. And, you know, yeah, it'd be nice if we could have some kind of local sponsorship.
And here again, I was looking for direction from our, city attorney and city manager as to how we should move as far as a council or advisory group or something of this nature, because, as soon as we start forming committees and all, we start falling under, specific sunshine laws.
If you form a committee that's going to recommend to you and you give direction to and you set their scope, that's sunshine.
Exactly.
So that's gonna.
So that's why, I'd like,
Yeah, Drew,
ideas.
Drew and I had talked about if you were to task me to work with the museum to initiate the effort and bring you back some suggestions, I think we could do that, and I probably could get you something moving pretty quickly.
Okay, and this is not my project. This is our project. You know, I'm just bringing it up because I don't like to sit by and wait for the last minute. I like for things to start moving.
Yeah, and I would think that the entire initiative should be anchored, if not centered, around the museum and, you know, that group. That's usually where those things come from. City
You have to
manager.
remember the museum has a staff member. She's sitting back there.
That staff member's got it.
And I know she's willing to help, at least I assume she's willing to help. But
City manager, do you have a preference on how you want to move forward with this?
Yes, sir. If you would task me to work in coordination with the museum to bring you back some ideas on how we should celebrate, then I think we can take that and work with it and make it go.
And what kind of time frame would you like on that?
Could I bring you back a report in 60 days?
Commission, how do y'all feel about that?
as a beginning of
Yeah, just to start.
Sure. I mean, it gives us all some time to start thinking about things as well as the general public. So I think that's great.
Okay, so 60 days, we're going to come back, review city manager, and you're going to bring that to us, and that'll give us time to get things rolling on our end too.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Commissioner.
I would suggest that we maybe keep Amy in the loop too, because she might have some really good ideas and ways to spread the word.
Yeah, that comes with the territory along with the museum. We see her as a major asset and colleague in this entire endeavor.
Well, we got the Cultural Council coming up too, and I mean, you know, we have so much art here in the city that goes back, you know, so many years, and incorporating that with, you know, the whole event could be huge, you know, as far as bringing out the culture and the arts within the city as well.
You're right on. I mean, when I come back in the 60 days with the report, it would outline what are the various elements, the groups, the connections, you know, some concepts, and then you could take that from there.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you, commissioners. The next item I have is I received a letter from Beverly Beach, and they reached out and asked for some cigarette butt receptacles, and it's very brief, so I'll just say here, Dear Commissioner Bryan, thanks so much for thinking of us and visiting to deliver the smoke containers in our office. As you know, our resources are limited, and is always welcome when someone takes the time to help us out. We take nothing for granted in Beverly Beach, and we know the city of Flagler Beach does not either. These may be the highest tech butt cans we've ever seen in the town, with GPS-enabled receptors and formatted keys. But they will certainly be welcome addition. As you know, the perception is of neat, tidy city may be one of the most important factors in attracting prospective citizens and businesses. Your efforts are much appreciated. Sincerely, Stephen Emmett, and that's the mayor of Beverly Beach. So I think it's always good when we can reach out and help our neighbors and get things like that done. Next item I have is has to do with our parking signs. This has been something that's been going on for a while, and I didn't want to waste paper, especially when it's color. So I'll just pass this from this end. You know what they look at? Well, that's right. You're part of the group. But this is essentially what the signs are going to look like. They are in the sign shop, or the sign shop is in the process of actually producing the signs or making them. And I've spoken to the city manager, and we will actually be able to provide staff to install them as well. We'd like to thank the Tourist Development Council. Amy worked very closely with us to fund this project. There were a few individuals on the committee that wanted to make sure that the group, Flagler Creates, got credit for it as well. And there was some concern that the Palm Coast and Flagler Beaches was too broad and too bold, but that's the logo that we have for the Tourist Development Council, and it's not unusual for those kinds of things to occur. Where I was in St. Johns County, it was Ponte Vedra and the beaches, and it didn't specifically say St. Augustine Beach or this kind of thing here, St. Augustine. It was the largest individual that was a group that was bringing in the most dollars, and that's what's being marketed. The next item I have is the TDC meeting, which I attended yesterday, revenue is up by 40%. Revenue reported the increase overnight stays, visits to Flagler County, Palm Coast, and Flagler Beach. They went over the marketing report, and the trend is that more visitors from Lake City are starting to come over here to Flagler County and the beaches. Top searches trends to things to do in Palm Coast. 22,000 views on Facebook on Santa parachuting to the beach. So there were a lot of hits there, and it's really unique that the data that they're able to capture, that I think we could even use sometimes when we're starting to do some marketing or even looking at the way that we're spending dollars in our city. There's a lot of information there. Tax update, 1,216 active accounts, B&Bs, townhouses, duplex condos, single family and campgrounds. There were several accounts, 8, where the owners were not reporting for various reasons. Some was because they didn't know that they were supposed to be reporting. Some, I don't know, they just didn't do it.
Be nice.
We'll just say that they forgot. But at any rate, we have a tax collector is like Wyatt Earp. I mean, you know, they go out and they're getting them, and they're bringing the revenues in. So there's steady rise in revenues totaling over 92,316, and hope I got that right, collected. 90% of the visitors came from other states, so we can see that a lot of the visitors coming to Flagler County, which includes our beaches here in Flagler Beach and the hammocks and all, they're all coming from out of state. Flagler is recovering quite well since the pandemic, so that's something that we can be very, very grateful on. Tampa and St. Petersburg showed the highest annual hotel occupancy rate in the U.S.
Wow.
I think they were doing a lot of promoting, and Amy can correct me if she wants, but you know, they have a very good marketing about the beaches, and if you look at the commercials and all, they talk about the white beaches and all of
St. Pete Beach.
St. Pete and that
really
kind of thing
amazing
there.
job.
So it goes to show you that the marketing does a tremendous amount of work as far as getting people to your beaches, into your town. Excuse me. The TDC is exploring and investigating a site in Flagler Beach for a permanent location, a place to own, and as opposed to leasing. And a lot of folks aren't aware, but right now there's a large building right out by the airport that the TDC is actually leasing and paying rent on. So it only makes sense that they should probably start looking for something that the government can own and also be more cost effective. Instead of calling it the visitor center, which we've been traditionally used to listening to, they're geared more towards calling them the experience centers now. These particular centers provide a gateway to local and to the county places for visitors to go and whenever they come to the city or to the county here for various trips and then vacation. For example, it directs them to restaurants, shops, water sports, transportations, parking, etc. One of the things I talked about yesterday, and they'd already started looking at it, many of you know that I'm a fisherman, and I mean, I like going out on the water. And if I go to a place, I look for a place where I can probably rent a boat if I'm not taking my own, or a kayak or something of this nature here. And we had a lot of venues right here in the county that you can actually rent kayaks, and you can rent other kinds of vessels in order to get out on the waterways. So they're actually going to start promoting those kinds of things, because not everyone just comes to the beach here just for the beach. A lot of people don't even like the beach. You know, bicycling and these kinds of things here, we need to focus more on getting folks out in all of those places there. And, you know, there's also some criticism about promoting and marketing and trying to get people here to Flagler Beach. You know, we like our little town, but we also have to remember that we depend on tourism. That's the industry that we have in Flagler, not only Flagler Beach, but Flagler County. And without tourism, we're not going to survive, because even though we as locals patronize the restaurants and the shops, if they had to depend on us as their prime customers, they dry up. They wouldn't make it. So we have to make sure that we try to promote the businesses and help them as much as we can. They're working on a strategic plan, actually have a strategic plan, and that's what I provided on everyone's desk. And I think this, I thought it was important that you get a copy of the strategic plan so that you can see where not only the county, but the Tourist Development Council and they're all going, and identify specific things on there that I thought was quite unique and important. Increase the exposure of ecotourism magnets, the kinds of things I'm just talking about, which has to do with kayaking and ecotourism. Very important: trails, beaches, turtle estuaries, marine land. Part of our Tourist Development Council includes marine land. A lot of folks go up there. I mean, when my granddaughter was down here, I took her up to marine land. So that's, we went to the beach, but we also went up there. The 3 strategic pillars to organize the goals, objectives, and tactics of the plan. I think they're very, very spot on here: destination development, visitor experience, organizational excellence. I'm not going to go through everything, but that's why I gave you copies of it. But the next item here is approved destination signage and environmental messaging. That's very critical, and that's, right here. That's the Tourist Development Council involved with that, as well as our own folks right here trying to get the message out to where to park. And they've been participating in that, partnering with the City of Flagler Beach and Flagler Creates to address signage. And so as we move along, we'll be getting more signage out on A1A and 100 that actually has the blue signs that we're all typically used to looking at. So when you drive into the town, you know that there's a parking lot down on this street or wherever it is, and you're not just wandering around aimlessly trying to find some place to park. It's critical that we get people off the streets and into the parking lots as soon as possible so that we eliminate some of the congestion and the safety is increased. I promise I won't be too long now. My voice is running out anyway. Cultural Council, on February 22nd, the Cultural Council is going to have an event. I think everyone here got something in their email about it. It's out at the African American Museum, I think it's called, out in Bunnell. Should be a very good event. Kicking off the Cultural Council, they're going to be looking for membership. Again, I was a member of the Cultural Council board in St. Johns County. Culture, arts, and these kinds of things is an economic driving engine. And people come to these towns looking for culture. They look for arts and things like that. So I think it's important. I'm glad to see that we're getting one in the county here. Veterans Park benches, just a brief update. We all know that it was postponed a couple of weeks ago. I'm looking at possibly March, reschedule it so we can get back on track and get the benches done. And I'm very excited about that. And it was, as I said before, it wasn't just for the safety of the folks that we had here, but Home Depot also had quite a few people out due as a result of COVID. So it was in the best interest of everyone. As I mentioned the last time, it was a very small plaque, but this right here is an example of the plaque itself. The one on the bottom here is actually, and I'll pass that around, is what we're actually having made. It has rounded edges so that we could actually use a tool to route out the back of the bench of the board itself, and then it's inserted so it'll be actually flush with the bench itself, so when you sit on it. It's taken about 2 weeks for that to be done. It's being done in bronze, so that'll be the first one that comes in, and within the next week I'll start actually calling and emailing everyone on my list to get a commitment as to whether or not they want to still have
This is the
sponsorship.
information that we need.
That's the information you need, and when I send you an email, you'll have that. I'll make sure everyone has it.
I won't write it down.
So it'll be consistent. We're going to try to keep them all consistent, realizing that some of them will be a little different because you may have someone like my uncle that was not only in Vietnam, but he was also in World War II, that kind of thing there. So we'll take that in consideration. Fountain, one of the things I'd indicated before, that if there were funds left over from the sponsorship of the benches, we could probably start using that towards a fountain. Just an idea I'm throwing out here. Let's think about something other than the fountain, maybe a Christmas tree or a permanent one or something like that. That's just an idea. I mean, it would be nice if we'd have something that would be a permanent structure that people take pictures in front of. But I love the fountain because I got 3 fountains at my house. But I just thought I'd throw that out there, let you know about it. And I'm almost done, I promise. I think that's it. That's all I have, and thank you very much for bearing with my long.
Yeah, no, thank you for all you involved in.
All right, Commissioner Bell here.
Well, I got a pretty short list.
I make up for everyone else's, right?
Yeah. I went to the Palm Coast City Council meeting when they discussed their how they wanted to do fireworks, what day, and all that stuff. So we all know the end result, but I got there to see it live. It's pretty interesting sitting through one of those
I
meetings.
bet it was.
Went with the city manager, and Jane also went to the League of Cities gathering up in St. Augustine a week or so ago. Went to the Congressman Waltz was given, I guess it was it really, what was it?
It was the academy invitations to the
Yeah,
military
invitations.
academies. It was
Right.
spectacular. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got a good group of young ladies and gentlemen that are getting ready to commit to a life of military service. We had a Friends of A1A meeting, but I haven't had a chance to gather all my notes. I'll share them with you at the next meeting. And I'm looking forward to our Tallahassee trip and our visits with all the agencies and our legislators. That's it.
All right, Commissioner Mealy.
It's very short. Chief, I want to thank you for the nice comments you wrote about my University Women of Flagler group. And your Detective Vinci did a workshop with my University Women of Flagler group on fraud and did an outstanding job. She went way longer than most speakers are allowed to go, and nobody cared that it went so long. They were so wrapped up in what she was saying. And Chief wrote a nice comment about the group. So thank you for that. And as I mentioned before, when Ed Finley did his report, I went to the Tiger Bay Club meeting yesterday, and this man named Russell Roberts, who was the former Chief of Staff for the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee Chair. You age as you say what he did. And he's currently, and I don't know what his position, but he works out of District 5 now. So when he was done with he talked a lot about trains and multimodal and a lot of that, and it was interesting. He did a good job. But I did go up and speak with him about our concerns. So hopefully the city manager can follow up on some of that. And that's it.
I don't have anything this evening.
He thought mine was short.
Yeah.
What I just want to bring up, I forgot.
I said it was short.
Good, Debbie?
Yeah, I don't have
Okay. Commissioner Bryan?
Yeah, I forgot this item, and it has to do with legislation, and I'm sure that the city manager and everyone going up there is probably addressing this, but Senate Bill 620, this bill creates a cause of action where businesses can sue municipalities and this kind of thing here. I don't know what these guys are doing over there. And I guess that's why I shouldn't go over there. Because it's just unbelievable. I mean, you know, they're setting us up where we can be sued by any business anywhere if they decide that they have suffered financially from anything that we do. And I mean, this is total overreach from Tallahassee. They talk about the federal government overreach into Florida, and this is the ultimate overreach.
Senator Hudson has made some amendments to it, but as I wrote to our city manager, until that bill actually goes away, which it's not going to,
Right.
I'm not going to be happy about it. The whole concept of it really bothers me.
And just as and I know this is what the League of Cities is saying too, and where they're pushing and what they're, you know, jumping up and down and screaming, is to make sure that every time you talk about that bill, that whether you're talking to a legislator about it or a constituent about it, that everybody understands that the people who pay these claims, the people who pay for the lawsuits and pay the claims that the cities lose, is the taxpayer.
Yeah, taxpayers.
Right.
So if they're really interested in saving taxpayer dollars, they don't pass this bill.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it up because, I mean, it upsets me.
Yeah.
I'm sure it upsets everyone.
Of all the, well, there's a few bad things up there, but that to me was one of the worst.
Anyway, that's my rant.
Okay. The only thing I got, and this is just an idea I wanted to bounce off y'all. So, was racking my brain about the issue with the multimodal, getting folks from Beverly Beach into our city and that whole log jam. And
You mean the golf carts
Yep.
on A1A?
yeah, and the ridiculous, 6-inch
Yeah.
buffer we have with the sidewalk and these little things that prevent stuff like this from happening. And then I started thinking about, all right, so how do we get past that? And how can we help our neighbors? And an idea that I had is I said, well, what if we just asked our neighbors to become Flagler Beach? And they're paying for everything under the sun that we do for them anyways. And it's for them to turn down. It's just simply an offer if they wanted to do it. I wanted to know what y'all thought about that. And obviously all it is just an invitation. And they can decide, they can turn down, they can move forward with it, they could entertain, they could tell us that they want nothing to do with the city. But I wanted to get y'all's thoughts about just going over to them and just saying, hey, you are a very limited resources, and you leverage us for a whole barrage of things, and we're glad to do that. But the combined power is a lot better than separate stuff. And, when it comes to doing anything, when it comes to dealing with FDOT, when it comes to, even something as potential things are, we have, when we move forward with the core dune project, we have that piggyback that we're doing on the north side. They don't. It stops at our city line. It could potentially benefit them if they were part of the city. It would have to get looked at expanding it, but just all these things. And I want to just see what y'all thought about it. If it was a good idea, terrible idea.
Well, I'm just going to have a gut reaction because I didn't have time to think about it. But I know people who live in Surfside Estates, and they would hate the idea. They're very proud, as you saw when they came and talked with us about the golf carts. You saw the pride they have in their city. Mayor Emmett, I'm not sure he would even want to talk about it. And it wouldn't solve the golf cart issue. The sidewalks would still be 6 inches too skinny.
But it does give you big leverage if you say, hey, we have citizens that are in our city. We need to be able to get multimodal transportation from one side of our city to another versus two different municipalities. And, it really doesn't matter. But if you are one, that changes the...
So then Palm Coast could come to us and say, look, we're so much bigger and more powerful than you. Why don't you just become part of Palm Coast?
Well, they could come and
Well, I don't know what that has to do with anything.
Well, you said that we're already doing all these things for them. And
which Palm Coast is not.
We have water agreements with them. We have some agreements with them.
Right.
I'm not going to get into an argument with you. I just don't think it's a good idea. So let somebody else talk.
Drew, can you talk a little bit about what that would take in order to annex?
No, it's not you can't annex municipal. I mean, it would have to be, the first process that comes to mind would be dissolve the city, de-annex it would become county, and then we would annex it from county. And if there's another process other than that, I haven't looked at it, but so
there's not a direct...
No, there's not some way where just City of Flagler Beach and City of Beverly Beach can become one. It would be a process, and it would not be short.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts?
I don't know enough about it to really speak on it. You're a cost benefit guy, so I don't know how much, if it would cost us more to start providing them services as we do our own, or whether there would be a benefit from that, but it's just too many unknowns for me to make that kind of decision. It'd be easier to go up there ourselves with picks and shovels and widen the sidewalk.
Well, and it's not just for that. Yeah.
Ken, there's another project.
I don't want to. Well, my gut feeling is, before we even go beyond this, is someone should go up and talk to the mayor and just say, hey, look, this is what we were thinking about. He might not say no, but he might say hell no. You know, in which case you said, okay, we just thought we'd offer it.
Right, and that's kind of the thing is just kind of saying, hey, the door's open if you guys want to do it, because we don't really have anything to benefit from it. It's not of a great advantage for us to do that. It's more of, you know, you're stronger as a team than you are as these individual silos. And I see what Beverly Beach did a long time ago was very good, but the problem is government has changed, and when the smaller you are, you're at a disadvantage. We see that with our own stuff, and so I just wanted to see if there was any appetite for it at all, or if there wasn't. I have no skin in the game. It was just an idea.
I'd like to at least just talk to the mayor first. Either, you know, Mr. Whitson can say, hey, the commission just said.
As a courtesy.
You know, as a courtesy, we just thought we'd come up here and offer this and see what you say. And he might kick him out the door, so that's why.
Right. And you know, you have a pride there, and all that's understood. It's just a matter of.
Or the mayor.
Yeah, and it just kind of. That might be a good idea.
And I could do it at one of our mayor meetings or of the sort. At least Beverly Beach would know that we like them so much. We want to have them as ours.
It's just kind of a good neighbor thing, and they have, I believe, on their post office stuff, it says Flagler Beach. I believe it does. It does. Yeah. So it was just food for thought, and I said, well, it probably wouldn't hurt to ask, but not until we discuss it as a body.
Well, and I think the mayor put it very well, though, and that may be where you send it from this meeting, because I have worked a couple of places where those conversations have come up. They've never, gotten really any legs at all. But that is exactly how you said it, Mayor, is exactly how that occurred. It was just mayors talking and said, one day with everything coming out of Tallahassee, one day, with everything we have going on, it might make sense. It might not be today, but somewhere down the road, this might make sense for us. And that might be how that conversation goes is, have you guys ever thought about this? I don't know when the right time would be, and it's probably not right now, but, we've kind of talked about it, and it might not be, it might be a good thing. We can see some positives to it, and just very casual, inoffensive, not, I think that's the key to it. Those conversations that I am aware of that have happened, that's how it's always been. It's just kind of been nobody pushing anybody, just saying, hey, one day this might be a good thing for both of us.
Mm-hmm. Someday you would you consider being adopted?
But we don't want to have that conversation if it's not something that this body wants to do. We might say, well, that's more trouble.
I don't know that you can say right now or 6 months from now or a year from now. You might be 3 steps into that process and decide this isn't the right thing to do. So I think you're so conceptual at it that this board really doesn't know if it's what they want to do either. I think what I am hearing, though, is, there might be some benefits, and it might be an idea worth exploring someday.
Correct. Yeah, that's really all.
Well, I will take
is.
that one and bring it up to Stephen at the next mayor's meeting.
It's just throwing stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I had. All right, anything before I move on to public comments?
Nope.
All right, we didn't miss anything. All right, we'll open this up to public comment. Anything that was on agenda, off agenda, any members of the public have anything they would like to talk about? If you can, please state your name and address to start with. You have 3 minutes. Yep, absolutely.
Well, I've been bad enough today to do that.
All right, name and address, Robbie.
I'm Robert, and I live at 600 Cumberland. And really, I don't have anything to do business, but I thought I did. I was going to ask about maybe starting something about the centennial that's coming up. And I was going to suggest Scott Spragley. I think he's a great guy and level-headed. And I was going to throw in a parade. So, to the annexation, while it's fresh on your mind, I actually lived in Ackworth, Georgia for many years in rural Cobb County, and city of Ackworth annexed us. And we didn't get a say in the matter. So, not that I really cared, but, and the date that it went in effect was after I moved. It had like a year, took about a year to pull it off. Doing it just for the golf cart thing, and I think I've talked to 2 or 3 of you about the golf cart thing. Have we looked at the current golf cart laws? I guess that's your job, right? Have you looked recently about the current, because I know they made changes in them.
The issue is FDOT. That's along the FDOT right of way.
Well,
The
I mean,
sidewalk
not
has
the
to be.
issue, just,
Hold on, Drew, let's have him ask us all his questions first.
okay, so when it comes to the golf cart thing, they've made some changes in the golf cart rules at the state level that gives more authority to local levels. And I got a brother that's actually a Dade County state attorney, and I asked him to look at that when I first moved here. And he told me there was something done in 2015 and all that, and I don't know if you're, if you stayed on that or not, or how that affects us locally. Because I'm on a golf cart just about every day, and I think some of you know I walk up and down the pier every day, and I want to say to the captain here that I've noticed the increased inner city police presence here lately too. So, what else was there? The tourism thing. I guess promoting tourism is a way we make money. I don't exactly understand how that happens. The only way I ever knew it happened was through hotels, which we don't have. I don't think that buying property on the corner of 9th Street for $1.5 million is a good first move for the tourism place that wants to move from what, and I got lit up when I read that Flagler Live newspaper article thing. I don't know why I read them, because it always lights me up when I read one of them.
I have that same discussion.
And my problem with it is you can't ever find information out here. I mean, I don't know where to look to find out what's going on. The only thing you really did tonight was approve unanimously some ordinance 2000-222, and it was all gibberish, or everybody else knew what it meant but me. What was that ordinance about? I have no idea. I don't know where to go to find that. Where do you go and look and find out what that ordinance is other than a bunch of numbers? What did you guys do? I don't know where to go to find that.
All right.
Well, that's what I heard last time too, but I mean, I know.
All right, well, we got a lot of questions to answer. All right, so your 3 minutes is up, so we got quite a few things to respond to, Robbie. So the first thing is Drew, he had a question about the golf cart law.
Golf carts, right. The 2015 statutory changes is why we have golf carts on local roads. That's what allowed local jurisdictions to allow them on local roads. They were not allowed on local roads prior to 2015. The issue with getting them here from Beverly Beach is A1A. They can't go on they can't travel along a state right of way. We can only authorize them on our streets, which is what we've done. We can't authorize them to operate on state roads. And then the sidewalk conversation comes in because they are authorized to operate on certain sidewalks or multimodal paths, but they have to be a certain width, and the sidewalk between FDOT and here along A1A is not the appropriate width. Also complicating it, to your question of has the city taken advantage of the 2015 law, the city of Flagler Beach has, city of Beverly Beach has not. So technically, even if they are operating in Beverly Beach, they are not operating lawfully because they have not adopted an ordinance, and I don't know if they have roadways where they'd be authorized on anyway, but they actually do not have an authorizing ordinance in Beverly Beach. I think that addresses the golf cart questions that were asked.
It did. A couple other things that were called out is the initiative about having conversations with Beverly Beach was only just brainstormed just by thinking about ways we can help that municipality. That's all it was. It wasn't about, it's not a thing to get golf carts here. It's much larger than that with helping them. And we would definitely not even think about doing an involuntary annexation because we don't even know if it would work as our advantage.
Can't annex another municipality. Yeah. They would have to not be in. It would have to be county before we can annex.
Yeah, and that's not even. It was only designed to be a helpful thing. Is all it was designed to do, because I know it'll hit the press and get spun in 100 different ways. But it was only designed to be we can try to be your partners. We don't know if you even want to, but we can just try to do that. The other thing about bed tax is the tourism department is funded from the bed tax. So when somebody stays at a hotel, there's a bed tax that is put on the fee on top of sales tax. So we have our sales tax and you have a bed tax. That's how tourism is funded. Their entire budgeting system works off of that. That has its own calculations that they follow, how it's divided up, what it goes to. That's all public information you can easily get from county. You can also talk to the director of tourism who's in the audience, or you can get it from Penny too. Penny has access to that or can show you where it is.
Mr. Chair?
It's not just hotels
good.
either.
Right.
Anywhere. Yeah.
And short-term rentals.
You got bed and breakfasts,
Good call-outs.
there's a lot of different revenue coming in from Flagler Beach for any, even a room. If it's a room that someone is actually renting, it's supposed to be reported. But overall, there isn't a whole lot in Flagler Beach, as far as hotels, other than that's why we're looking for these. It's a revenue generator for not only bed tax, but also for the city of Flagler Beach too. So that's why commercial business is always good, because the more commercial business you have, the lower your property taxes are going to be, because you got to have something in order to help with. And I think the last meeting, one of the things I mentioned is that we're a small city with big bills. To build a sewage plant, to do a manhole relining and this kind of thing here is expensive. To just do a transfer station. It costs the same as a transfer station here as it costs out in the county, but they have bigger tax base than we have here. So there's a lot of things that we use the money for, but we can't use tourism taxes for that, but it's just an example.
And the only other comments there was about the ordinance, and I would recommend that you work directly with Penny on that. She can help you through any of that stuff too.
And just also to be helpful on that, if you're not aware of it, if you go to the city's website, and I don't remember exactly which tabs I click, because I usually go to the website to look at the agenda packets too, but you can get to the agenda packets for the commission. They're always up there on the website. There's a link you click on to get to the agenda packet. So every piece of paper that they are going through tonight, you can review that ahead of time if you like to. You can print it out for yourself, but you can get to that through the city's website. The city's website.
Call me. Okay. Call me Monday. I'm not here tomorrow. I'll walk through it.
Right.
And there's always a copy in the back, the complete packet.
All right, we're still under public comments. So any other members of the public wish to come up and address? And if you can, start with your name and address. You got 3 minutes. Johnny, what's up?
Hi, everyone. John Luzrai, 634 South 23rd Street. I think Robbie's frustration and a lot of our frustration, one of the first things that I spoke to Mr. Whitson about, from the Business Bureau standpoint, me just trying to contact each and every business owner, give them information, it's so darn difficult. As a citizen, it's 10 times worse. There's so many people that are not on social media, or if they are, we're getting bits and pieces, and just like the Flagler Live article, the frustration brewing and try to educate people on what's going on, how is it going, and why are you spending all our tax dollars? And then getting attacked is just so frustrating because, listen, there's a lot of us that try to do good, and we're not being irresponsible. We're not spending all this money, and it sucks because the first thing that we get is a business that writes. Well, their job is to put out news, right? And we need a different solution on how we can communicate to our residents and how we can educate people properly, because they're not going to go to the city website. Unfortunately, in this day and age, they want to be hand-fed. And I almost feel like with these times, we have to acknowledge that we have to make a big stride forward to fix this communication gap, because all it is doing is tearing us apart. I mean, the thread that happened after that Flagler Live article, it was just, you guys seen it, even with the Bank of America building. There's so many people saying, why didn't we buy that one? Or why aren't we taking over the museum or this building or that building? And it's like, man, we try to do our absolute best, but it gets killed because now we have elections coming up. So now if there's something to be voted on, well, I'm sure Jane or Rick, or maybe if James jumps in too, I feel like we're so fearful of the public, as opposed to, man, if we just educate, or if we send that email first to every single resident or a newsletter before these articles get hit. And, Flag Live is smart. What he does, his job is to get more clicks, and he does a very good job with it, and that's his business model. But I'm getting so frustrated because it's tearing people apart and creating so much division, as opposed to uniting and bringing people together. So ultimately, what we're trying to do, our FB3 meeting, which I urge the commissioners to come to, and I don't want you guys discussing anything or to violate any sunshine laws, but to be a part with these businesses and hearing what we're going to be choosing on our next project. If you need help with anything that is a larger issue, obviously, Mr. Whitson can contact us anytime, but I'm trying to find a way to keep us together. And we're getting so darn close. COVID did such a damn terrible job breaking us apart even more after all the hurricanes, after the elections, the national elections. So I want to find a way to kind of bridge that gap to make sure that we have good communication across the board. And I appreciate your guys' time with that. If you have any questions.
I guess it's a question. You say, I get very upset when I read the comments. I keep telling myself not to read the articles, but I think it's important that I know what people are saying.
Absolutely.
And most of the responses are out of lack of understanding what we do. So rather than trying to find out what the real information is, there's just this outpouring of
emotions,
of wrong information, or just reacting to the wrong things. You say people don't want to go on the website, people don't want to go online. If we are going to be putting a newsletter out, that's one of the things in our strategic plan that we talked about doing. And I guess when the assistant to the city manager comes on, that's going to be part of her job. But if people won't go to the city website, or if they won't read the right things, are they going to read the newsletter? Because it will be online. The cost of mailing these things out is, it's too expensive.
Well,
and yes, there are people, I go through this with the Women's Club. There are members who don't have computers. Lucky them.
What it really comes down to is just, it's a full-blown marketing plan. So with that newsletter, you have to be able to hit all ends, every spectrum, and to develop and create that obviously is going to take time, even if it's finding something in the budgetary process or raising funds so you guys can have a full-time, another assistant for Penny that, hey, they're putting out daily blurbs. This is what's going on in our city. Chief of Police does a hell of a job with that.
I was going to say.
But the only problem is it's only hitting one spectrum, and that's Facebook, or maybe it's Instagram. But to be able to kind of basically bring in all the information together and be able to put out there, whether it's a daily text message or email or something along those lines, because it's just so darn difficult to get people to find the education themselves. They want to be force-fed nonsense a lot of times because it's just easier. And whatever we can do, and this is one of the biggest points I want to bring up at our Business Bureau meeting is, hey, I'm so tired of the miscommunication. And that's not what we want. We don't want a plethora of people coming through the doors just like almost could have happened tonight. But no, I'm like, there's no big fight. No, this is all, we have to find a better way to educate. But just like Eric said, we got to bring people together. The city and the county need to work together. The cities that are neighboring, we got to work together. If we want the congressman and the governor and the state reps and everyone else to come here and respect us.
We're getting really long here. This is just public comments. So, City Manager, do you have a response to any of the public information that he was talking about?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Johnny, for your comments. I think you're right on. And the number one item in the strategic plan created by the commission last year was communication, better communication. And I'm sorry it's taken so long, but I have a brand new assistant, and I don't mean to blow her qualifications, but she's a graduate of Cornell University. Her writing is impeccable. She's young, she's smart. She knows social media, and I'm going to present the challenge to her, and we're going to start producing information and refining it as we need to go forward, putting it out on multiple platforms, and just see if we can't do a better job. Will Flagler Live still create controversy? Will people still believe in rumors? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But there will be a proper source of information, and we will make sure that it's out in multiple platforms in multiple ways. And that's what I've been charged to do, and that's what we plan to do.
And that person will be functioning more or less as like a PIO style.
Correct. I mean, not right away, because they will have multiple things to learn and catch up and, get used to our community, but their skill base is solid, and their coordination skills and, writing and social media skills and all those things have been tested. And so I'm looking forward to them coming on board and getting us going.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak under public comment? Anything that was covered?
Can I just say one more thing?
Well, we went way past the 3 minutes. Anybody? All right, we're going to close public comment, and we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned. Robbie, I can talk to you about what you got, though. You can tell me about that.